Hi, this is Raven, and this video is going to be focusing on units and waypoints and follows the mission editing basics video. So I'm going to assume that you've watched that first. Right, I've already dropped a unit in. Now with units, there are three different properties that you can edit. Right, firstly, we're going to look at the unit's loadout. So if you right click on the unit, edit loadout, and in here we can change his weapon, his uniform, his equipment, and the lists down the side here, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Something to bear in mind though, we'll just add a backpack so I can show you. So if I give him a Bergen, and you see he's got a 6.5 gun, so we're just going to give him loads of mags, fill that up, and that's how you add sort of equipment in. You have to select each, so that's his uniform, select his uniform and add into his uniform. So we just added the backpack. Something to bear in mind if you change any of the equipment. So you see he's got 19 mags in this big backpack. If we give him a smaller backpack, it will automatically reduce what it can fit in there. So it's something to bear in mind in case it gets rid of things that you actually want in there. And also if you change the weapon, so he's got 6.5, let's give him a 5.6 and go back to the backpack. You see it's emptied it again, so you'll have to give him the 5.56 ammo in there. The second part we're going to look at is the unit itself. So if you double click on it, you get this window pop up. So you got the unit's name. Now this name is for the editor's purposes. So if you want to tag a trigger to him or that kind of thing, that's that name there. Going down is his skill level. So I would just leave that on normal. The only one you might want to play about with is the health and armor. So if you want to start your player injured, you sort of drop it down to sort of between 10 and 20%. He'll be quite injured and sort of limp about, depending on your scenario. And his stance. So if you want to start him off laying down or crouching, just leave it on default. If you don't, special status. Now, the only one in here that you might want to sort of mess about with is the stamina, because the stamina can be a bit of a pain in the arse unless you want to have a realistic mission. So I most of the time get rid of that. Object identity. Now this is actually what the unit is called in the game when you actually start playing it. So you can sort of change his name to Joe Blogs, or change his voice so he's speaking whatever variation that's down here. And object presence, you don't really need to worry about. That's just if he's there or not. And the only time I've used that is if I want a bunch of units to change sides, and I'll go through that maybe in a different tutorial. Lastly, we're going to look at the unit's behavior. So if you double click on the box above its head, now all these options are the same as if you click on the unit itself, but you get this extra section here which is the unit's behavior. Now it's not really relevant for the player, but it will be for the AI units we place down in a minute. But I'll just very quickly go through the behavior section. Combat mode on a drop down list. Each is self-explanatory and it's got a tooltip to tell you about each one. Behavior drop down list, and again it's got you a really useful tooltip to tell you about each one. As default it's on aware. I'd leave your AI on aware or safe, like it says here. Bit of caution if you're using careless. The only time I use careless is on civilians, so that the second a gunshot goes off, if you've got civilians unaware, they'll just run off, and it might spoil the ambience. So I put them on careless sometimes so they don't run off straight away. And stealth, I only use this stealth if I've got units under my control, and I'm in a scenario where I'm close to the enemy, I'll start them off on stealth so that when we load in they don't just start shouting, oh there's a man 100 meters away and all that, which again spoils the ambience. Now we're going to look at waypoints, and I've placed a player here because I want to use this compound for the demo. So we're going to switch to op 4, and I'm going to place a rifleman just here, and if you hold shift and left click you can change the direction they face, and if you go up to F2 this selects multiple units at once, so we'll just go for sentry, which is 2 guys, and we'll stick them there. And again, if you click on the square and shift, you can change the way they face, which is going to face that way. You see they've got a line attached, so I'm just going to move him closer. You can do this with the single objects, so you can stick down a rifleman here, and if you stick another rifleman down close to him, you can see it links. So you can do it that way, or you can use the multiple. So what we're going to do now is select the square, waypoints, move. Now if you're intending these units to react, what you want to do is stick the very first waypoint as close to the unit's feet as possible, because if you stick the first one say here, they will move to that waypoint, and I'll show you why in a minute. So first want to set their behavior, so aware, we'll have them walking, we'll just leave that like that, and then this waypoint will mimic whatever the behavior is you set here, but with each waypoint you can change the behavior, which we'll do in a minute. So select that waypoint, and we want them to then move there and then up to here. Okay, so what we want to do is want the player to kill this guy, and once he's dead these two will react and come and see what's going on. So how to do this is we're going to drop down a trigger, and this is another thing you can use in your missions. So if you open that trigger up, and in the condition type exclamation mark alive space and just put S1 for soldier 1, which is what I'm going to call the soldier. Now the exclamation mark just means in scripting not, so not alive space and the unit name, and we'll open him up and we'll call him S1. So this trigger is going to fire when he dies. So now what we want to do is right click on the trigger, connect, and select this one, set waypoint activation, and we want to set it on the first waypoint. So they will stay there until this trigger's fired, and then they'll move. Okay, so if I just show this waypoint, so it's unchanged, but what we can do, as they were walking, we'll set this waypoint to full speed, and then this one will be unchanged, so it'll just mimic this one. Okay, so let's give that a go. Right, so let's see if this guy's standing there. Just peek over without getting shot in the face. Yeah, he's there. And we just killed him, and now our two should run out from, there you go, there's one. Here we go, and there's the other one. Okay, so now we've done that and it works. What we can do now is add a helicopter extraction, which also will show you a few more waypoints or how to use them. So I've stuck a ghost hawk over here, and we need to put a move waypoint close to it again, and then another move point, and I'm going to change the map view because it's easy to place at distance. So we'll get them to fly out here, and then across to here, and then over here, and I'll stop it short because I want to use a land waypoint. So I'll just stick it there for now. Go back to the other view, and we want the height of this waypoint to be accurate, so there's no risk of the helicopter hit and land. So double click on that. Waypoint transformation, Z is your height axis, so that's 75. That looks about right. I want it to drop altitude a bit, so let's try 60. And let's try 35. Now the land waypoint, if you're using an area that has a helipad, you can quite simply put the land waypoint on the helipad and the AI will know that's where it's going to land, because the helicopters need helipads to land. But if you're in an area that hasn't got a helipad, so say you're in the middle of a field, then if you go to objects, props, and type in heli, you got helipads here. Obviously if you're in the middle of a field you don't want a typical helipad, so just use an invisible helipad. And for demo I'm just going to put it on this concrete patch here. If you grab that helipad, the land waypoint, and hover it over the helipad, you see the icon changes. So now the helicopter knows it's got to land at that helipad. So we want to stop it from moving, and we only want it to come over here once we've completed the mission. And to complete the mission we want to kill these two guys. So if we go to triggers again, drop the trigger down there, and it's going to be similar to the other one, so exclamation mark alive, and you've guessed it, S2. Now if we want to trigger to activate with more than one unit dying, then we need to space and space and then repeat the statement. So not alive S3. So when S2 and S3 die, this trigger will be activated. So we just need to give these guys their names, S2, S3. And lastly we need to link the trigger. So connect, set waypoint activation, there. And that should be us done. So now when we kill these two guys we'll get a helicopter come over to take us away. Alright, let's test that out. Now to complete the mission, we could either end the mission on the player getting inside the helicopter, or we could have the helicopter take off once the player's inside and then fly away a little bit and then end, which would sort of seem a lot nicer. So we're going to go with that one. A little bit more complicated, but not a great deal. So we're going to stick down a trigger, and we want to select the land waypoint and do another move waypoint, and we're just going to stick it out there for now. Now this trigger, in the condition, we're going to put P1 for player 1 in H1 for helicopter 1, and that's literally all you got to do, other than name your player. So P1, and our helicopter, we want to name H1, and we'll put the waypoint well out here. It doesn't matter because we're going to add another trigger here, and we're going to have a rectangle. Size we'll have 50 by 500. Activation blue 4 because that's the team, and present. And we're going to click on that and just put it perpendicular to the flight path. And I'll change that to 75. Okay, if we go back in now, we can see that big wall there that we've put up. Okay, so this trigger, set waypoint activation, it needs to be on the land waypoint. So now, once we kill these two guys, the helicopter will come in and land, and it will stay there until our player gets in the helicopter. Once it gets in the helicopter, this trigger will release it, and then it will fly off out to sea, and it will pass through this trigger. And this trigger, we have got activation blue 4, activation type present, and then in the type we're just going to end the mission. It will just look nicer. Okay, so we'll have a demo of that. So there you have it. I hope that was helpful. I'll put all the statements in the video comments so you can copy and paste them into your triggers. And the next video I'm going to work on is objects. So if there's anything in particular you want to have a video on, or anything you want to know, just message me in the comments and I'll get back to you via comments or create a new video. Alright, good luck guys.